Dean. CRA is first. First COVID Response Act. All these initialisms and acronyms. Lisa Kapisak, Terry's replacement. It's an initialism. Really hone up.
Is she really young?
No.
Oh,
No.
She's just really smart.
She's just crazy smart. And for the first time, she used the full term in her opening paragraph and just underlined the first letter. And once I caught up, oh, that's awesome. How she does it. She's like, well, I've taught you them already, so. It's like I'm reading Sanskrit. It's unbelievable. She's really good, though. I am learning just how much Terry Stahulik knew. Lisa's as good as we could do, and she's going to be amazing. But there's just a bit of a learning curve. Of course, she's coming in at the hardest person. Let the record reflect. Real good.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Secretary, call the roll.
Aiello? Here. Barry? Here. Casper? Here. Jackson?
Here.
Lloyd? Mensa?
Here.
Malloy?
Here. First up, I'm going to open it up for any citizens that would like to address the board. Come on up, if you could put your name on the sheet that's on the podium.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Charlotte Vikas. Last year, I was privileged to be a part-time para at Fulton School, which I thoroughly loved. My career path is that of a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for 42 years. I decided to retire and was kind of bored at home, so decided to become a para. And I came to love everyone there, the students, the staff, the administrative staff that I've gotten to know. My concern, first of all, is there were 3 open positions for nurse, a registered nurse within the district. I did apply to all 3 of them. I did get a call back from Miriam Betley. We talked about my career. We talked about what the position would be like at Cruz as a temporary sub. I never heard anything back from any of the other positions. I was told this morning that the position at Memorial had been filled. After that, I heard that actually we're going to all remote, which comes to my next concern. I feel that I would be neglectful if I didn't address or advocate for the parents and students in our school district. We all want to be safe, okay? We all want the children to be safe, but medical scientists are saying that this COVID is going to be with us from now on, just like the flu. So it's going to be something either you get a vaccine against or you get it and you survive and you're happy. That concerns me about the face-to-face education. What are we going to do in the future? We can't give these children e-learning forever, okay? I happen to have a grandchild who has special needs, 2 of them actually, one in this district and one not. They have fallen behind. They do not get the special time that they got before with the para or the speech therapist. Those kinds of things really matter to parents. Parents are having to quit their job or go to a part-time job that pays less money so they can be home with their children during e-learning. And I know you've all considered that, okay? This leads to people not being able to pay their bills, they're being stressed, and then we're asking them to take on the job of what we have done traditionally. My one daughter was told that she would get 15 minutes a week for my grandson in the Round Lake School District for speech therapy. My grandson has apraxia, he has mild to moderate hearing loss, and he speaks like a deaf person. He didn't start speaking till he was 5 and he's 9. We have children in our district that are in the same situation, okay? I think it would have been better before positions would have been listed if we had thought about what the ultimate outcome was going to be. And I do know that things are fluid and they're changing by the minute. I get that being a nurse, okay? But it's very frustrating to a parent who now, a week before school, has to figure out how they're going to either get or pay for childcare and go back to work. The children are frustrated. My grandson in this school district, who's on the autistic spectrum, is very anxious and upset today because he's like, I'm not going to be able to go back to school with my friends. I'm just asking, both as a former employee that was honorably dismissed and as a registered nurse and as a grandparent, that we all consider this going forward because it is affecting our children. It's not a matter of if people are going to be infected, it's a matter of when they're going to be infected. People are being affected going to Walmart. People are being infected going to Jewel's. We can only do the best that we can in the school district, but you have to realize that these children are out in the open in other places. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Carolina Krasowska. Oh, sure. Sorry. My name is Carolina Krasowska. I'm a parent of a going to be first grade student at Cruz. This year has been very strenuous on all of us, the kids, the parents, the staff, obviously, everyone alike. And in all honesty, I am plainly filled with a sense of overwhelming loss, complete frustration and constant frustration. Ulcers, come on, they say all right? Overwhelming loss and constant confusion as to what is going to come and in this school year. At this point, in all fairness and respect alike, it feels like a joke and a constant feeling of kind of like a deliberate lie, okay? You asked us to take surveys, you asked us to do all of that, and we were told that, we're gonna try to get to everyone. Now, as a parent, we send our kids to school to learn, of course, but in a society that we are currently living in, which is basically run on social media, we have become not just entertained by it, but also dependent and reliant on it for anything from storms to news to whatever else is going on Facebook. I mean, you can get the weather alerts off of Facebook. But for example, you guys told us we're streaming currently on YouTube. How do we get to this? We go to Facebook, we go to our schools, and that's how we get to be wherever we are. But we also send, because of this media, we send our kids to school to also socialize, to build and develop key skills that are so necessary in day-to-day life, especially as adults. And this skill is just like it is social and emotional development. And we use it as adults, even as preteens and teenagers, but we have to develop it earlier on. Because if you don't develop it now, tablets and all this other stuff, it's just going to be overwhelming. Now, I know we're going into a world of where technology is key, and I get that, but there's certain things that you need to do face-to-face. It's really hard to ask your CEO to get a promotion when you can email them, and that's all you can do, because you get social anxiety when you're 3 feet away. And that's what kids are developing, as well as adults. Adults have a different way of actually kind of dealing with the social anxiety. Kids get scared, they don't want to do something, and next thing, it just leads to another. And no one is going to teach a child as well as a classroom environment and a teacher that cares. So many kids wake up feeling and thinking that they want to go to school, not just because to learn, because, kids, teenagers, that's the last thing they want to do necessarily, to open a history textbook and, figure out everything. But they think of going to school simply to be with friends and adults that make them feel like they matter. I'm sure you guys all remember when you were passing notes between your best friends or going to a classroom and first day of school or even some sort of test, and you're getting freaked out and you see your best friend in the corner and it's like, okay, I got this, I'm gonna be fine. Someone else has my back aside from my parents. And that is something that, it's missing. When the hybrid model hit and I sat down with my 6-year-old and I explained to her what's going to happen. I told her that, you're going to be going to school 2 days 1 week and 3 days another, like, Monday and Tuesday, and then, Wednesday every other Wednesday. And I'm like, do you understand what's going to happen? And the rest of the time you're going to be at home. She's like in the spring. I said, yes, like in the spring. And she said to me, I want to see my friends. I'm like, you're gonna have to wear a mask. She's like, Mommy, I'll wear a mask. I won't give any huggies. I won't give any kisses. I'll keep by. I'll stay away. I won't share my snack. I promise I won't share my snack. I just want to see my friends. And that is something that if we do go all remote, because that is the rumor as to all the different districts, that is something that is really going to damage the kids. Education aside, it has been always stated, there's 1 or 2 or 3 kids that fall behind on a regular basis, COVID aside. And now it's going to be more because, like I said, no one will teach a child, has the patience, has the know-how as a teacher. Now, we are parents, not all of us have teaching backgrounds or educational backgrounds. However, we are put in the role of trying to understand. Now, I know it's old school for me, but the new math is just, you can't get through that for an older child. It's difficult for us to understand and then rely, and the kids need to know the way the teacher taught us, and that's the way it is. And you told us, the parents, like I said in the beginning, you're trying to accommodate everyone. People that wanted just to go in school, people that wanted to do remote. Now, you told us that you preferred to choose which one we preferred, whether it's going to be in-person learning environment or remote. But in the sense, you guys kind of failed us because that concept failed because a lot of resources that are available were not even taken into consideration. And that was evident from the last board meeting when it came to the transition. There's a lot of things that you guys, the board did not consider or did consider, but it was overruled. So my question is, what exactly is the plan for our kids? Everything so far has been empty words. And by what I mean is every email that I have received so far since the transition has been so ambiguous to the point that it's honestly, it's pointless. You chose us, you told us to, we were given the hybrid model, and we were told which cohort you want to choose, cohort A or cohort B, and you have to commit to it. Then we get an email stating that, we'll do our best to accommodate everyone. So to this point, I, per se, do not know which cohort I'm supposed to be in, even regardless of the fact that I've chosen one, but I've chosen something else in the past, and this is what it is. Who the teacher is, where is that going? And parents, we need to know ahead, especially working parents, because everybody's going to work these days. And not everyone has an opportunity of actually working remotely. So working parents, we need to know ahead, not a week in advance. Or you need to make this decision, cohort A, cohort B, you have until Monday, and you receive the email on Thursday. I mean, this is ridiculous. That is something that for me, especially, because not only am I a parent, I'm a single parent, I'm a single working parent, I do not have an option of working at home, even though I work in an administrative field. Okay, so that is crucial information because some of us don't have the capability of paying for daycare. We rely on our schools to kind of provide care and learning and socialization. And I know that sounds really bad, but it is what it is. It's true. Okay, the kids depend on the school depends on the parents.
I don't mean to cut you off, ma'am.
And just a question though.
I just want to say something. There's been new guidelines put forward by the state, so that's why we're here. We want to discuss the new guidelines because there's challenges that the school district is going to have to make.
Okay, so the new guidelines. Now, are you trying to say that we don't have enough room for the kids? Because
No, we'll get to
Okay.
that, but
all right, well, thank you very much for listening.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Hold on.
Okay. So you asked for the public to speak first. Well, why don't you tell us why we're here, and then let us speak? Because they're just going to talk until they're blue in the face. So, can we do that? Or no?
Change the agenda.
We can't change the agenda right now.
We cannot? I can't hear you.
We can't change the agenda right now.
Okay. So will there be a chance for public speaking after we talk about that?
The agenda's.
Because everyone's just going to keep coming up here and saying the same thing.
All right, should we go to closed session first? All right.
Okay?
We have to go to closed session first.
Okay.
And
We
then
can
we'll-
all agree. They're going to go to closed session first to change the agenda. If they don't change the agenda, we can't listen to what they have to say first. So do you need us to exit the room?
No. We will.
Okay.
So just stay put. And
Thanks.
can somebody give me a motion for closed session?
I move that we go to closed session for labor and personnel matters.
Second.
Secretary, call the roll.
Aiello?
Yes.
Barry, yes. Casper? Jackson?
Yes.
Lloyd? Nenza?
Yes.
Malloy?
Yes. We'll be back shortly. back in open session. I'm going to ask if there's any more public comment before the superintendent does his presentation. In case anybody else wants to make a comment, they can right now. Can you hear me now?
Here, John, here.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I'm going to open it up for public comment once more. If anybody would like to make a public comment, there will be time to make a comment after the superintendent's presentation. If you'd like to wait. If not, you can come up now.
No, we want to make comments after we know what's going on.
I have to open it up for public comment and finish the item on the agenda first before we move on. So if you want to wait, you can wait until the superintendent makes his presentation. We're going to hear one more comment and then we'll wait. How's that? It's required by law.
No, I just want everybody to understand, so citizens' request to address the board, since it appears on the agenda ahead of the action items, we can't restrict anybody who would like to speak now, but you will have a chance to speak again after I've presented what we're recommending.
Okay. So my name is Vince Gutierrez. I have two daughters. One is 7 going into 1st grade, and then one has an IEP, and she has Down syndrome. I am a doctor of physical therapy. I have a bachelor's in biology with secondary ed. I worked in the emergency department at Palos Hospital, and I currently work in a physician's office in urgent care. I have seen COVID patients. I've seen post-positive COVID patients, and I've had patients who've passed away from COVID. This is serious. I get it. This is a very serious situation that we're in. So, as a concerned parent, I don't envy the position that you're in when making these decisions. As a physical therapist, I closed down my clinic for 3 months in wake of COVID-19. I have since reopened and am working at about 60% of my previous capacity. Why did I close my clinic though? I had the availability to do telehealth. I could do it. I still had the ability to work. The reason I had to close is because 0% of my patients were able to progress via telehealth. It just didn't work for my patients. This brings me to my next point. I have a daughter with special needs, Down syndrome. My wife and I utilized remote learning to work with my daughter in the early learning program. No offense to the other professionals, but remote learning and telehealth does not provide the same extent of learning as my daughter could obtain in a classroom. Again, I've been in their shoes and I've learned firsthand that these services are not as good as in-person services. My patients just didn't choose it. What are your options? You already have the speech therapist, physical therapist, and occupational therapist on staff, correct? You already have the buildings. You're opposed to having people in a lot of people in a small space, and it's understandable. I've been there. But we need to make sure that those that have these IEPs still have access to these professionals, because I've seen it. It's just not working very well. So it seems like an easy solution if you would just almost create like an outpatient scheduling system to have these students still come in. You've got the building, you've got the space, you've got the professionals. Have them still come in on a scheduled basis so they can get the services that they need, and it would eliminate having too many people in a small place. Moving on to our older daughter, there were nights that we sat at the table for 6 hours trying to learn material. School has to go beyond a simple, here's your homework, with links to the topics that we're going to discuss. I would like to see the teachers provide their lesson plans to the parents, since it's the parents that are actually fulfilling these lesson plans. Meaning, I would like for the teachers to send out the lesson plan with objective and goals to the parents in order to give the parents insight as to what was the important aspect of the lesson. Parents aren't teachers. Parents haven't gone through the curriculum to be a teacher. Parents haven't created lesson plans, and they need to understand these plans in order to better help their students. I've seen some teachers posting their classroom teachings to YouTube. It's a great idea. I'd love for my daughter to have access to the actual classroom material as if she were in school. Finally, we are trying to protect our children through sheltering them, but as a child, their job is to play. We are restricting their opportunities for show and tell. We are restricting their opportunities to have lunch with their teacher. My daughter absolutely loved having lunch with her teacher in kindergarten. We are restricting the students' ability to create memories, which would have been had in a classroom setting. As teachers and members of the board, I have an expectation of you to be able to provide my kids with the best learning environment, even if at home. since you deem it appropriate to restrict their access to the community of students within the building. And I understand you're in a hard spot. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no more public comment, the superintendent would like to do his presentation.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? So I'm going to just run through a little bit of the history for those of you that don't know the backstory, but Governor Pritzker's executive order on June 4th allowed for the reopening of schools in person in Phase 4. We moved to Phase 4 on June 26th. ISB released a guidance document shortly thereafter, which was created in conjunction with the Illinois Department of Public Education. I'm sorry, that's the Illinois Department of Public Health. So we've got basically two governing bodies. ISB regulates schools, and the Illinois Department of Public Health regulates public health. On August 12th, the Illinois Department of Public Health, on July 22nd, shortly after everything I just said, we put together our back-to-school transition plan. That was put together by a transition team that was made up of cross-section of people throughout our organization, and their job was to implement or to create a plan that adhered to the guidelines in ISB's guidelines and then was also compliant with the guidelines from the Illinois Department of Public Health. We did that. That happened on July 22nd. The plan offered the two options, 100% remote instruction or hybrid instruction, part in and part out. On August 12th, the Illinois Department of Public Health released new guidance for schools. The new safety measures included many additional requirements for reopening, particularly for in-person instruction, which were released to us on August 13th. Since then, you've seen a number of school districts in our area that were previously planning to open 5 days in person or in a hybrid plan, change their plans to 100% remote. So if I were you, I would be wondering why it took me till today to make this recommendation. And the honest answer is I stubbornly wanted to overcome the new obstacles in the new guidance and still have our hybrid plan as written. I really didn't want to do this step, and neither did anybody on the team. So there's been some modest increases in positivity rates, but Oak Forest, Orland Park, and Tinley Park at 6.5, 4.4, and 5.9 are all under the threshold of 8%, which is what the governor said, but there has been an increase lately. But what I'd like to talk to you about are the new guidelines in the Illinois Department of Public Health guidance that was released late last week. First, the management of ill students and staff. All students and staff sent home with COVID-like symptoms should be diagnostically tested. Students and staff should remain home from school or work until they receive their test results or have an alternative diagnosis from a physician. That used to read everybody who tests positive for COVID. It's now any student or staff person that possesses any one of the symptoms of COVID, and you know what they are: fever, chills, cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, congestion, runny nose, nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea. I asked one of the school nurses today in a meeting how frequently a student would come to her office throughout a regular school day before the COVID madness, and the answer was between 20 and 30. Students would come down with one or more of these symptoms. Well, we now have to treat them as if they're COVID positive. We have to send them home until they get a negative test, have a doctor's note that says that it's from something else, or they've been on the bench for 10 days. That's everybody in the household. Brother and sister that go to another school in the district, they have to be on the bench also. And everybody that was in close contact with that student, same thing. You can imagine how long it's going to take on the first, second, or third day of school before we're sending scores and scores of students and parents, students and teachers home. Many of the symptoms are those seen by nurses often daily, commonly reported symptoms of students absent from school. The requirement of testing results or doctor's notes to return to school, even with increased ability to test, will result in high absenteeism and prolonged periods of time out of school for students and staff. Now, you've had a student that's been absent for 3 or 4 days in a row because they've got a bad illness, and how difficult it was to catch up after 3 or 4 days. Imagine 10 days. Imagine they come back and it happens to somebody else in their class the following week and they're out for another 10 days. And if you think you can turn around a COVID test for all of these people this will occur to fast enough for them to return before the 10 days, I'd like to know where that type of return is available. No. I'm not talking about the 8% of people in our town that have gotten tests. I'm talking about thousands of students returning to school districts all throughout the land, all needing this test all at once. There are a limited number of testing sites, blah, blah, blah. The above statement requirements will make it more challenging for staff in a building when there's a significant increase in staff that are out with symptoms or waiting on test results. Students and staff with COVID-like symptoms who do not get tested for COVID-19 and do not provide a doctor's note, I said all of that already. If a student is sent home with suspected COVID-19 symptoms, all of their siblings and those in the household, I already said that. The definition of close contact changed in the new guidelines. These are all things that existed in the previous guidelines, but in less restrictive ways. Close contact has been redefined as anybody with or without a face covering who is within 6 feet of a confirmed case of COVID-19 with or without a face covering for at least 15 minutes throughout the course of the day. The period of close contact begins 2 days prior to the onset of symptoms. We spent a good number of hours developing what I thought was a very good contact tracing program within our school district, where we would interview the person who tested positive for COVID-19, who they'd been in contact with that day. You now need to backdate that 48 hours before. Can you imagine us asking a 6-year-old who within the school building they had been in contact with on Tuesday when they're presenting with symptoms on a Thursday? Personal protective equipment. When performing clinical evaluation of a sick individual, school nurses will use enhanced droplet and contact transmission-based precautions. Staff performing this evaluation should use appropriate personal protective equipment. Personal responsibility for cleaning areas used by an individual known or suspected to have COVID-19 should use appropriate protective equipment. And now the definition of appropriate personal protective equipment for those folks is a fit-tested N95 respirator, eye protection with face shield and goggles, gown, and gloves. So we bought all the eye protection, we bought all the face shields, we bought all of the masks, we have gowns and gloves, but this N95 respirator, there are hospitals that are subbing KN95 respirators because of how unavailable N95 masks are to people who are trying to buy them. Now let's say we could get a hold of them, and in fact, I found about a 2-week supply of them at a very high cost that we purchased. The new guidelines issued late last week say those masks need to be NIOSH certified. The people who are going to be wearing them need to be fit tested for them. The person who fit tests them for them need to be certified to fit test somebody with it. We don't have anybody on staff who's certified to fit test an N95. I said, well, let's get somebody certified. We can fit test our own. And I'm sure by the time the first round of them run out, we'll find another supplier for the others. It turns out that everybody who's going to be fit tested for an N95 mask first needs a physician to evaluate them for their fitness to wear an N95 mask. This is guidelines that were given to schools middle of last week, the week before school is supposed to open. Storage container for N95 masks, training for the use of donning and doffing the N95 mask. A respiratory protection plan must be written. Anyone using an N95 mask must be medically evaluated. All the above issues take time to implement. Obviously, we need all of those people to see their doctor between now and next Thursday to say that they're fit to be fitted for an N95, which we then need to have someone certified to test them to fit them with it to make sure that they can wear it. And if not, they are not properly now, based on the new guidelines, able to clean a room where a student who's had a COVID symptom was present, which will be at one time or another every classroom on every campus. Areas used by an individual with COVID-like symptoms should be closed off for as long as practical before beginning cleaning and disinfection to minimize potential exposure to the person who's cleaning them. Outside doors and windows should be open to increase circulation if possible. Wait up to 24 hours to clean the room. Wait up to 24 hours to clean the room. We're going to have students in that classroom the next day. Before beginning cleaning and disinfection, environment cleaning staff should clean and disinfect all areas of the person with COVID-like symptoms. Before, it was just for the people who had come home and told us that they tested positive for COVID-19. This is the space and the classroom of everybody who's demonstrated any one of the COVID symptoms on any given day. After we've fit tested the custodian for him to be allowed to go into the building or into the room and do it in the first place. So here's just a summary of the general obstacles starting in person given the new guidance. We're unable to adhere to the safety guidance written in the new guidelines based on the timeline, the need for additional PPE, cleaning and disinfecting. We can't assure the availability of the PPE beyond the first 2 weeks that we've already acquired. We can't assure the availability of testing to allow staff, students to return to school or work. We can't assure contact tracing efforts in conjunction with local health agencies when we have to backdate it 48 hours and we're interviewing primary kids. From a student standpoint, increase in student absences based on the change from COVID positive to COVID-like symptoms for exclusion from school. The new definition will cause significant increase in the number of students required to quarantine based on new requirements. The interruption of learning will be significant if students are moving from in-person to remote and back for long periods of time due to the guidelines. And based on our current available staff and class sizes, there's no way to move a hybrid student to a remote classroom for continuation of learning. We've got room to do that for anyone who tests COVID positive. That's why under the previous guidelines, we could get it done. We've got room for 3 or 4 per grade level per school to be fluid and move back and forth, but not in the numbers that we're talking about. Staffing. Increase in staff being removed from the classroom on a regular basis for quarantining. So remember, if they've been in close contact with anyone who's shown any one of the COVID symptoms, they're considered to be exposed, and so they have to go through the 10 days or 15 days. I preface all of this by reminding the public that we're already in a teacher shortage. I was concerned about our ability to find substitutes for normal illness, not 10-day quarantining for potentially handfuls of more staff per district. Shift in the number of staff that may require a leave of absence to support their own children remotely. This was a big one for us. So before the weekend, we had 8 teachers who qualified under the FFCRA for a child rearing leave and had requested it. I said earlier how many of our local school districts had changed from their in-person plan to a full remote plan. And today we received 25 more qualifying requests for child rearing leave because of staff that lived in communities that previously were going to send their kids. They're in the same boat as you. They were going to send their kids to school, and now their schools are going to be remotely. So there's that number of those that have said, well, I'll take a leave because I have to care for my kids. I know that not everybody has that luxury. I'm not making these decisions for these people. I'm just telling you what they've applied for. Increase in staff being removed to the classroom, the availability of substitute staff, teachers, non-certified staff, and custodial staff was a problem before COVID. We're living in a teacher shortage environment. We figured out a way to do the hybrid plan and offer the choice of full remote by adding 5 additional staff district-wide. I was quite proud of that, and we were prepared to hire them. And I need to tell you that the number of teachers that applied for those 5 positions was alarmingly low. And we typically get applicants from a number of surrounding districts because it's a nice place to work. The teacher shortage is real, and our sub-list is quite a bit shorter than it used to be. You have to also understand that the number of people that are the most reliable people on the sub-list are retired teachers of ours. That also happens to be the demographic of the community that's at high risk, and they've called and said that they are just not going to be able to sub. It's too risky for them and their personal health. I hope that some of them will reconsider. But that's a very personal, very intimate, and a very important decision that they have to make about their own lives. So tonight I'm recommending that we go to 100% enhanced remote learning for all, with staff beginning on Friday, August 21st, and students beginning on Monday, August 31st. That's 2 days later. The principals have been scheduling and staffing all the things that you are frustrated that you don't have yet. Some of you received some of that today. We're just getting to complete it now for the hybrid and remote plan that we've been trying to implement for the last 3 weeks.
Can you clarify the start date, because you said that's 2 days later, you said the 21st and the 31st, that's not 2 days.
I'm sorry, staff will begin on the 21st.
Yeah.
Begin working, planning. We're gonna train them how to do the enhanced remote learning. We're gonna. No, I'm sorry. We really, I can't get into an interview situation, but I do want to clarify that students, the first day of school for students will be Monday, August 31st. So that's a Monday, and they were set to start the Thursday before. So it's 2 school days later, it's 4 calendar days later than what you were expecting the first day of school is. And the purpose for that time is, first of all, the administration heard from me today that all of the planning that you've done for the transition plan and the remote learning, you need to put that on the shelf for someday when we're able to transition. But now you need to reschedule everybody, reassign all of your staff, because we've got in-person classes of 16 and we've got remote classes of 24. We need to redo that. You don't want your student in a class of 24 if the class next to you has 15 kids, right? So we have to reassign all of that. And then, like I said, the teachers are all coming back for 6 days of start to finish day-long training in all the COVID stuff, but mostly in enhanced remote instruction. So the reason why we are all dissatisfied with the quality of remote instruction in the spring is because we called them and told them that they're staying home the next day, figure out a way to keep your kids learning. And there was no training and there was no notice, and the world was turned upside down on March 13th. So now we've got an opportunity to provide the training. We've been searching for all the right training, all of the right electronic resources, ways to remedy when a student isn't getting things, ways to extend your students' learning if they've already got it. It's going to be much richer than it was last spring. Of course, I'm not trying to convince you that it will replace in-person instruction. Everybody who said we need to get these kids back in school, everybody who said that they need teaching in school, that the classroom is the best place for kids to learn, that's dogma for us. We believe every word of it. That's why we went into education. We all want all the kids back all day, every day. So the recommendation is full remote instruction to begin on August 31st. The district will mail out class lists and training opportunities for parents to familiarize themselves with online learning tools. That'll be rolled out by Friday, August 21st. So you'll have that 10 days before the first day of school. CMS will make their schedules live to families via PowerSchool by Wednesday, August 26th. Elementary schools will share teacher assignments with families in the letter, and all families will receive a schedule for remote learning days along with specific guidelines and expectations. I have some dates for some beginning of the year activities. Some of you may be interested and write it down. Of course, you'll be getting all of this directly from your child's school. A virtual open house. All elementary schools will host a virtual open house on Tuesday, August 25th from 5:30 to 7. Central on Wednesday, August 26th from 5:30 to 7:30. Kindergarten meet and greet and kindergarten materials pickup will be in person by appointment for all elementary schools on Wednesday, August 26th from 3 to 7 p.m. And materials pickup in a drive-by fashion will include Chromebooks, iPads, manipulatives for learning, and other things that the teachers want the students to have. All schools on Thursday, August 27th from 3 to 7, and Friday, August 28th from 9 to 12. Personally, this has been obviously the most challenging thing I've ever faced in my career, and I've watched a transition team work hard to implement guidance that we thought was challenging, only to have it doubled the week before we intended to implement it. The guidance, that is. The challenge of the guidance. I say it doubled, it quintupled. There's things in the guidance that we can't do. And the administrative team on Thursday, I told them to read the new guidance and come to cabinet today with solutions. And that cabinet meeting happened at 11 a.m. And everybody walked in that meeting knowing we were going to implement the hybrid plan that we passed a few weeks ago. Everyone was committed to it. And as each department went through the impact that the new guidelines have on their department, we can't pass a plan that isn't compliant with the Illinois Department of Public Health guidelines. The exposure would be infinite. And there's things in the Illinois Department of Public Health guidelines that we cannot accomplish. And it's not because we don't have enough money, and it's not because we don't have enough time. That's the rationale behind our recommendation. I know that a number of you believe that this is this superintendent and this board caving to political pressure from teachers honking horns or whatever else. Before that cabinet meeting at 11, I had a union meeting at 9:15, and everybody in that room knew we were coming back with our hybrid plan on the first day of school, a week from Thursday. There was no discussion about changing to remote. If you don't believe me, you don't know me.
Didn't that come out on Wednesday? The new guidelines, so they knew?
Yes, they knew about the new guidelines, but they weren't making. We're the ones that analyze the guidelines and make the recommendations and write the plans. I don't know why the greater union didn't do their own analysis of the guidelines and come out and write a newspaper article saying that it's impossible for schools to open. Strategically, that would have been brilliant, because they would have everything they need. I encourage you to Google it. Illinois Department of Public Health guidelines for reopening schools.
But they are just guidelines, they're not laws. What happens if you don't follow them?
So
Stand up to this ridiculousness. The children are suffering. Someone's gotta stand up and do the hard thing, and it sucks. And I get it.
I'm not I don't want to cherry pick comments from the crowd, and I can't answer all of your questions. Anybody who wants to give me a call, I'll spend as much time as I need to answer every one of your questions in detail. Those of you that know me know that that's true. But
Is there any discussion by the board?
I'm sorry. I need to make one more comment. If any of you had been sitting beside us over the last 3 weeks, any idea that we're not willing to make the hard choice or overcome the obstacles, it's just absolute rubbish. That's all we've been doing all day and all night, instead of being with our families, instead of whatever else. I'm not crying about it. It's a very important job. I make a very nice salary. I'm not complaining about it. I love it. I love overcoming obstacles. But you better believe that I want the kids in school.
I just think the timing is convenient considering some of the teachers wanted to have a strike and not come back to school for 135. And then as soon as 135 did that, then 146 did that. And then now all of a sudden, remote learning, they're guidelines, not laws.
Can you please hold your comments until I open it up for public comment? Is there any discussion by board members? Would anybody like to say anything?
This summer, and the truth is the state, in my opinion, wasted our, I mean, we were making plans to have a hybrid opening, and the state, as far as I can tell, took that out of our hands. There's no amount of I read these guidelines, there's no amount of creativity or workarounds that can get around even close to any of these, unfortunately. And it really hurts me to say that. But the truth of the matter is, as one who has really pushed to open these schools, to get these kids back in school, I don't see any way forward right now with this. We've asked Dr. Staywick and his team to continue to reevaluate this and see what can be done maybe at the end of the first trimester or so. But the truth of the matter is right now, they dealt us an impossible. And I'm sorry to have to say that, and I hope for some of you that are listening that maybe I did add a little bit of credit, I don't know, but I would just second what Dr. Staywick says, that it's really too large for you to take it out of our hands, whether or not the school's ready.
Anybody else like to make a comment? Okay, at this time, I'm like open it up for public comment. If you'd like to come up to the microphone, please, and put your name on the paper.
Beth Crummery. I've been at every board meeting. I've always wanted in person, and I know I know what position you guys are in, and it's, as a parent who has wanted the in-person learning, I'm super sad that this is what it has come to, but I read the same guidelines, and you're right, the state has pigeonholed you guys into a position where this is what it's come to, and And I hope that the parents take the opportunity to read the same guidelines that you went through to really understand that the district has no other choice. I mean, this is what we're left with, and I think to make the best of this school year, we have to we have to go home and explain this to our kids that this is what the school year is going to look like, and give a positive reinforcement with it so that they can go in and take the e-learning and be positive with it and give it their all, because this is what it is. This is what the state of Illinois has put forward for us, and it's just the way that it's going to be. And unfortunately, it is what it is. The district, I work in a district office for another school district, and I know the work that has been put into this, leading up to this, and it's not been easy. It's not been easy for these districts to make the decision. And so, I applaud you for what you've done to date, and I know that it's not been easy. And I hope that the parents here, because I was very much like you these past few weeks, really wanting in person, really pushing for it, but it truly just isn't possible at this time. And I encourage you to go and read those guidelines to really see what the district is up against in trying to reopen. So,
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shadi Banasra. I have 4 kids that attend District 146 schools. And my question to you is, at the beginning of this whole COVID-19 started, what surprised me a little bit from you guys is, or from the district, is the lack of communication. Those emails that you send sometimes have no meaning. Sometimes we don't really know what the plan is, So at the beginning, you guys sent this survey and asked if we choose whether we need to do a hybrid model or an online model. So you should have prepared an online model to those parents who has chose that, right? But we still don't know what that looks like what kind of enhanced school that is. Is it a day does it start at 9 o'clock for school? Does it start is it like those seesaw assignment, ridiculous assignments sometimes? Or what kind of school is it, the online learning? Can you explain that to us, how the day look like for a student and a teacher in the online school?
We're not here to explain.
But I mean,
We're just taking public comment right now.
How is it going to look like for the kids? I mean, if a kid in an online school right now, how is that day is going to look like? I mean, I really want to know, if I chose that for my kids, how that day look like. And nobody can answer that question. Not a teacher, not you guys, nobody. We don't even have a plan for that. I mean, then how do I know how my kids are going to be in school?
Is there any more public comment?
We'll get to you in the back, I promise.
I'm Laura Rogers. I have 3 children in the district. I consider this a stage, and I feel like I'm in a position where I'm on both sides of the stage. I'm a principal in a district. Everything you're saying was my day today. I've described it as a maze of mirrors. We start to look at these things that were released last week, and as we navigate this maze, we hit a wall because the department comes out with a question, and then we can't find our way out. I agree, you said it best. We've been pigeonholed, but I wanted my kids in. My son is going into 6th grade. Thank you for having the open house, the orientation. I think that really speaks volumes as to what your intentions were. I don't think you needed to do that if you anticipated doing this, so I appreciate that. So I just want to thank you for your hard work, and I want to echo the parents. We're all disappointed. And unfortunately, IDPH has made it impossible. Mr. Rick Lloyd, these past 2 meetings, I have to be honest, I wasn't your friend at times, But I really appreciate what you said today. Because some of the comments you made, I just kept thinking, no, you got to read these guidelines. And I know that you were, and I know that you came from the best place. But I really appreciate your comment. Because for someone that was on such the other end of 5 days a week, full days, I think that it just speaks volumes to someone that takes that time to look into it and to agree with what the superintendent is recommending. To me, that was a game changer tonight. So I do appreciate you taking that time. I want to thank everybody, and every district right now is kind of in this place that's changing their minds. You have questions about what remote learning is going to look like. It's happening. The plans are being made. It's just everything is getting delayed every day. I'm hearing there might be more guidelines coming out in 2 days. So for those districts that don't switch, I think they're going to keep forcing it until we all do. So why not just do it now so the teachers can get that planning in? So thank you.
Bulldogs.
I'm the AD. I know a little bit about what you're going through. Again, thank you guys I'm sure you guys have been spending endless hours on this, and I know that with the new guidelines, your hands are pretty much tied. But moving forward, a couple questions about the next step. Is the food program still going to be offered to the families through the state? I know through March through June, we were able to come and pick up breakfast and lunch. Are we going to get real report cards, real grades, not just a pass-fail? Will tutoring and other services be available to our students? Are our teachers going to be in the building all day? Will our kids be able to see their teacher in a classroom, see the background? And also, knowing that this could be a possibility of going to full remote or full e-learning, if you can just send an email like what steps were taken to make sure that this e-learning is better than what happened in the spring. Because the IXL and the Seesaw, I mean, the kids need to see the teachers, and they need to hear it from the teacher's voice. They don't listen to the parents. So will there be live teaching where the kids can interact with their teachers?
Hi, my name is Eileen Von Borstel, and I'm the Vice President of the Teachers Union. A couple things I wanted to mention today. We're representing 225 teachers, and by no means does everybody agree. It's like the division in the community. There are people that are polar opposites as far as what their ideology is and what they think is the best ideas. But I can tell everyone here that the district has been working absolutely around the clock since July 6th. I know this personally, and everyone I've talked to try to find a solution that works for everyone. I think it's hard to find a middle ground here, and it's been hard to watch the community so divided because we want what's best for the kids. There's no teacher that doesn't want those kids to learn. That's why we get up in the morning. That's what drives us. We want every kid to feel loved and safe and that they can reach their potential. That's what we're all about. And we would rather be in the classroom doing it because we love the connection with the kids. I mean, that's what my life is all about. There isn't one day that I've gotten up and thought, well, I'd love to be remote learning today. That would be just great. I could look at their little faces on a screen and just do the best I can. So I can appreciate that parents are not comfortable with the fully remote plan. However, as Dr. Stake had mentioned, we were kind of thrown into it, and some people did it better than others. Some people were just naturally more able to be more animated, things like that. And it was hard because we had no preparation, and we thought it was going to be for a couple of weeks. Nobody envisioned that we'd be here in August in this position. And I know that the board and the administration and teachers worked all summer trying to get this together. There's never been a day that anybody coasted. So there's never been a point where they were always thinking we'd go remote. Everybody worked really hard in getting the hybrid together because we saw that as the best of both worlds. Unfortunately, and I've read over those new guidelines, it looks to me like the state is pretty much doesn't want to have Pritzker say, close all the schools. But in a way they kind of are, because they keep making the guidelines tough enough that it becomes impossible for a district to follow the guidelines. And I think unfortunately the guidelines are going to make it hard for parents because they do have a lot of other pressures on them, and school works for them. It's worked for them for years, and now all of a sudden that's not an option. We do see their perspective. I mean, people see what they see. The view changes based on who you are and where you're standing. So I know some of the parents have been very, very upset. They're thinking that teachers don't want to go back to school or that it's easier to teach remote. I can tell you personally, I spent many, many, many more hours teaching remote than I did in the classroom because it's just harder to do. And everybody rose to that, and it was hard, but nobody wants to do that as a choice over in-person learning. And I know that the board and administration doesn't want to choose that over classroom learning. I mean, they're being totally honest with you there. But I think we're at a point now, where days before school opens, where we need to work together because everybody's been pitted against each other, and it's really bad for the kids. If you think remote learning is bad for the kids, having the divide is even worse. When they see adults that can't try to rise above their different thoughts, their different ideas, we owe them more than that. We've got 2,400 good reasons to come together and 2,400 really good reasons to try to make lemonade out of these lemons that we call COVID. And we need each kid to know that even though we don't agree, we're going to pull together and make this work somehow for them. And so I just urge people to try to be a little bit better. I know I owe a public apology to the lady sitting there because I felt she was being rude, and then of course I responded by being rude. And I want to model the behavior that I want everyone else to be doing as well, because these kids they're the lifeblood of our community, and they're so important to all of us that we have to find some way for people to be respectful and listen to each other and do whatever it takes. And if there's parents that are struggling, reach out to the teachers and say, I'm not getting enough from you. I need more. My child needs more. What else can you do? There's ways that you can change the way that you're teaching or the way that you're approaching things. Everyone's going to have to be creative and communicate and really make an effort, because it's too important to let a whole year go by where the divisions are creating an atmosphere where they just can't have what they need. Thanks.
I just want to say, after hearing the guidelines that I was not aware of, with all respect, I can tell all of you, after dealing with the Illinois Department of Public Health for many years in my career, that my experience is that what the Department of Public Health wants is what's going to happen. And I do agree that your hands at this point have been tied. As I say, I've had a lot of experience with them, and you guys have had to change things from day to day as things change in this COVID world we're all living in. So I do respect what you're doing. You're trying to do what's best for everybody, and we don't live in a perfect world, so it's not going to be perfect for all of us. Thank you.
She did when she commented.
It's on there from earlier.
Thank you.
Second.
Aiello?
Yes.
Barry, yes. Casper? Jackson? Lloyd? Nenza? Malloy?
Yes, so obviously this requires some changes in the school calendar. I'll read those changes. The first day of school for students is Monday, August 31st. Staff returns for a remote learning PD day on Friday, August 21st. Institute days on Monday, August 24th and August 25th. A SIP day on Wednesday, August 26th. 2 more remote learning PD days on Thursday and Friday, August 27th and 8th. And a half SIP day moved from December 22nd to December 23rd. The opening day keynote delivered by yours truly is moved to Monday, August 24th. So staff will be experiencing a day of training that was etched in stone that can't be changed before they receive my keynote this year.
Second.
Aiello?
Yes.
Barry, yes. Casper? Jackson? Lloyd? Nenza? Malloy? Aiello?
Yes.
Barry? Yes. Casper? Jackson? Lloyd? Nenza? Malloy?